Good evening, everyone. My name is Dhruva. Today I'm going to be talking about the self according to the Vedic view or description by the Vedas. A simple version. So the Vedic Model of Self. So first of all, we have the atma, or self, individual self. Also known as soul or spirit. Now, covering the atma, which allows an individual self to be in material consciousness, is ahankara, which basically translates to the false ego. So this is atma is the true ego, the true self. Ahankara is the false ego, the false self. The ahankara allows the individual eternal spirit self to identify with matter. The next layer is buddhi, or intelligence. I'm not a good speller, apologies. So this is, once we pass ahankara layer, we're talking material elements. So the first one being intelligence, next one being manas, or mind. This is where all the thoughts happen. This is where, and this is actually where the Western view stops, at mind. Western philosophy, Western view stops at manas. And after that we have the next layer is the, indriyani. Indriyani, or the senses. Senses are seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. And then, what do the senses come in contact with? The sense objects, or you'd say the world. Yeah, we see things, we touch things, we smell things, we taste things, we hear things. Alright, that's the outside world. I suppose we can call it, like prakriti, I suppose. Prakriti. Now, this is a simplified version, and there are more intermediate steps, but ultimately this all exists within the body of Vishnu or Krishna, and or Mahavishnu, which is we can call the Superself. Now here's the kicker. We tend to think of like the individual self as an individual, and sometimes we hear of the paramatma or the Superself, or this localized aspect of Vishnu. So Vishnu has many expansions, appears in many different forms. On the grand scale, the universes emanate out of his pores, and he enters the universes again and gives life to the universes. And then he also enters it into every atom within the universes, and he also resides along with the jiva, with the atma, the individual self. We could write in here jiva also. Okay, and we tend to have this idea that where would the super soul be, the paramatma, in this model? Actually, what I've come to realize is that the super soul, or the paramatma, is here. Param means like supreme. It's the supreme self, paramatma. And you can find verses confirming this in the Vedas. One I'll turn you to straight away is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 20, where Krishna says, I am the self of all living entities. Okay? Now here's the kicker. All right, yeah. You might have your doubts, because we do see images in paintings where, if I was to ask you, okay, where's the soul, where's the paramatma, where's the atma and the paramatma, and you would kind of say, oh, well, like, atma is kind of like in my heart region, and the paramatma is there with me, like two birds in a tree, right? But this is too dualistic and simple a conception in two ways. First of all, there's a dualism aspect here, that the atma and the paramatma are separate somehow. There's some space between them. And then also there's a dualistic aspect in that spirit and matter are two different, fundamentally different things. So you're going to come into problems with that understanding. It's okay in the beginning to think of it like that, but eventually you're going to get caught. And you will come to this point where you'll realize that the paramatma is actually in the heart of the atma, and not in this pump we call a heart in the chest there, made of atoms and stuff. The paramatma is in the ethereal heart, or in the innermost heart, in the heart of the atma, in the heart of the jiva. And this makes complete sense, because how do you have a life force on its own? That life force has to have a life force that is superior to us, which is God. Yeah. So just like you have the sun, you could say the sun is God, and then we are the rays And if there is no sun, there's no rays. So we are rays, and we are dependent on God as our source of giving our life force. Okay? Please pose questions to me if you're having some doubt or confusions on this matter. You can check commentaries on this verse here, and it'll get you pointing in the right direction. So yeah, we have paramatma in the heart of the individual atma, and then what did I say was out here on the outer layer is also the super self. So we have the super self in here and the super self out here. Okay, so so this is a perfect model because it's fractal. Yeah, paramatma is in the heart, and everything. This is our soul, our intelligence, and our mind, our senses, the world, all existing inside the super self, inside the ultimate reality, which is God. Right? But God also exists at the smaller scale within every individual and also within every particle. Right? So it's fractal. And we know that the paramatma, within the body of the paramatma, everything, the totality of existence exists within the paramatma also. Yeah, so we see how it's fractal like that. And it has to be fractal. It has to be this way, because otherwise there is an edge and there's something outside. What's outside of God? These questions arise like, who created God? Who created the creator? And what's outside? Okay, well, if there's the heavenly or spiritual realm, then what's that situated in? What's outside of that? So actually the ultimate reality has to be fractal. It has to be multi-dimensional and folding in upon itself. Okay, so what is the whole point? What is the point of spiritual practice, yogic practice? What are the devotees of Krishna trying to do? What are followers of the Vedas trying to do? What is our process? Through meditation, through bhakti yoga, through devotional service, through association with other Vaishnavas, discussing the philosophy all the time. What are we trying to do? At the moment, well, we start off being mostly absorbed in our senses, meeting with the sense objects. Yeah, our senses meeting with the sense objects or the world, and also we think, our thoughts, and they're going on mostly automatically. We're being led around by our senses and our mind, and our intelligence normally is just serving a desire to interact in this way, but we can sharpen our intelligence through practice. And through meditation, we're meant to observe all these things happening. We're observing the world and know I'm not the world. We're observing our senses, coming in contact with the world and realizing we're not our senses, and also we're observing our thoughts and realizing we're not our thoughts either. The intelligence is said that actually be the form direction of the super soul or the paramatma. Intelligence is given to us in order to act out of our desires, right? And then we're getting to this point of the false ego. The false ego is, you can meet with your false ego when you meet with your choice to identify with the material world. When you discover all these things going on and that they're not you, you can also see that you choose to identify with these things. They make up your story for life. So you've chosen it. And that facility of ahankara, that false ego, is given to you by God in order to identify with these temporary things to live out your experiences, your desires, deep desires that you have. Okay? So through the process of chanting Hare Krishna and devotional service, or other yogic practices, we want to let go of this, remove this false ego. Because once we take away the false ego and we're no longer identifying with matter, as the self, we can understand that the paramatma, or the super soul, is our life force, and that all of these different manifestations of God's energies are exactly that. They're just different aspects of God. And therefore, without the false ego, we engage in service of God. We use all our faculties of intelligence, mind, senses, to serve God, in God's service. And that way we actually reconnecting the loop with spiritual consciousness, rather than this false ego is what gives us the illusion of separateness, material consciousness. Yeah, you could say the false ego allows us to identify with this temporarily material part of conception. It's not actually material, it's a conception. The ahankara, or the false ego, allows us to identify with this as separate from God. Once we remove the false ego, then everything's linked back up. We have a complete loop, complete fractal of everything in relation to God again. So yeah, let me know what you think of the video, and yeah, any questions or comments, leave them on the video, and look forward to hearing from you guys. Hare Krishna.